Okay, are we all sitting comfortably? Ready to begin? I've tried to put the pictures together, but the first one or two are a wee bit ropey. This is a school football team from, well, it says 1920 on the ball, and I can't see what the other thing is, but I think it's about 1926, 27. Well, sorry, but 28, 29 rather. Those of you who are old in the tooth will recognize some of the teachers there, including the far right with the moustache, John McCrae. Remember McCrae House? And next to him is Kenneth Caney Mackenzie and Albert Nicol next to him again. The player far left, I'm seeing Al Cray there. That's Hugh Grimm, who was Breen Cray's husband. Just before I go on, at one time, all the school teams up until, well, the late 60s were up on the technical building in frames from 1912 onwards, which we'll see later on. And they've somehow mysteriously disappeared with a lot of school artifacts, rather sadly. This one here is of the Ross Mountain Battery, about 1930, and they won a cup. As far as I know, they wore red jerseys and white shirts. Now this one here, at the top one is the Caber, well it says Caber, it was the Caberfay Football Club from 1908-09, and they have a stag's head in front of them, and there are actually names for them. Trying to think of who you might know. Willie John Campbell is the third on the left, and trying to think of people. Yeah, Norman Mackay, known as New Mackay, who worked in James Mackenzie's for many years, is there. Neil Caskill, Donald McCaskill, Dandy the Painter, and various other names. The Caberfay they ran from about 1908 until about 1911, and then came back into the league again in 1921, 22, 23. And then they've disappeared since then. You see the CFC on the ball with 1908-09. Now this team, a lot of people, I know Charlie Nicholson's going to get a shock when he said the junior league was formed in 1945, but there was a junior league in 1908-09. And this is the Crusaders football team, and 1909 is on the ball. And it includes that the guy far on your left is, well, a few you might have met him in court, because that's Colin Scott Mackenzie Sr. And the man wearing the bonnet and the jacket is Provost A.J. Mackenzie, later Provost A.J. Mackenzie. I could go through others, and I think the bottom right-hand side is J.D. Matheson, who was a dentist. This team here was called Tally-Ho. A rather strange name, again of that year in 1908. The small guy at the front, what's his name? He was called Jake. He was killed in the First World War, and along with his brother, he was John or Jono McFarlane, and his brother Hudson was also killed in the war. Again, they were it's a one-season wonders, never heard of them again, but a lot of them joined other clubs. Now this one is quite hard to make out. It's obviously been, the light has got in. It's the Stornoway Ramblers Football Club of 1909-10, and the main man that ran that was a man called John Macdonald, John the Factory. He had a lemonade business in where the Stornoway Trust meet today. And there was a couple of people present were in there today, not drinking lemonade, by the way. But now, John the Factory, he also had later on the building now known as the Criterion Bar. And he had, it wasn't a bar then, and he had a woman serving there called Bella Bovril, which you might have heard of. Then she set up on her own. She was a sister of William Willish and McKeever, who was well known in football circles, especially with the Aths. The man with the towel, beside the man in the towel was a man called Jimmy Dafty Mackenzie, and he had an office on Kenneth Street, which has just been demolished. It was the original City of Glasgow Bank. It's a red stone building opposite the Free Church, the Motor McLean things. And apparently he committed suicide in there. And later on, James Shaw Grant had the Stornoway Gazette office building there, and he said it was haunted. So I don't know whether it was footballers flying about or what. But yeah, I could go on to naming all the players, but the man in the centre there is Willie John Campbell, who appears in the previous photo. Now, the Ramblers weren't just a football club, they were a cycling club as well. So it was a combination, and they disappeared before the war, but made a return in 1922. So, but cycling and football don't get along together anymore, as far as I know anyway. This team, I'm not 100% sure, but it's believed to be Caledonian, which this is about 1922, but Caledonian formed in 1903, and I'm seeing George Macdonald down there. It was his grandfather that formed them. They were named after the Caledonian Hotel, and they wore green shirts and white shorts. I'm hoping to get a positive identification of this one. It's one that came to me quite lately. By the way, I'm going through all the really old ones. We'll come to modern ones later on. Now, this is the Ramblers of 1921-22. See, I think I mentioned earlier that they reformed again. There is a sign behind them saying trespassing, so I don't know which football ground that was at, but perhaps trespassing was inside the penalty box. This one is the Ross Mountain Battery of 1930 again. I don't know if anybody can make out anybody, but I know Kathy might be able to make out. The man beside the man in the hat is one of the Mackenzies. I don't know if you heard that, Kenny Sausage. Yeah. And the man beside him is Duncan Ranger, and you can see Jonah MacArthur and Paddy Matheson, second from the right, and in the middle, Donald Duncan Morrison, or D.D. Morrison, who ran the shop on Crummer Street for many years, well, and his successors. Now this one, it's got Athletic A on it, but it was better known as Kelvin Grove. They came under the auspices of Athletic because in 1924, so many people had emigrated on the Metagama, Marloch and Canada, etc. There was hardly any men left, but Aths had enough players to form a second team, and so the Kelvin Grove came about. They wore green and yellow halves. I'm trying to look for him. The small man, first on the row on the left, Duncan Robertson, told the Probus Club 30 years ago that the reason they were called the Kelvin Grove was that there was an exhibition in Glasgow in 1924, and all the girls in town said, "We're off to the Kelvin Grove." So they would go away to this big exhibition. And so they thought they would impress the girls by doing that. And quite a lot of them could play the accordion. And how they learned the accordion was they would sit on the window of the drill hall and listen to the bands playing. So they learned by ear. And later on, they used to have dances on the base of the old canning factory down at Seaforth Road. And the girls would say, we're going to the Kelvin Grove. So I think the team fell apart because I think they all got married with girls or they went away to university. But the man in the middle with the ball is called Donald Ishan MacLeod, who went on to play for the Alths a lot, and his son, grandson, etc. In fact, they all won the league. I could go through them all, but it would take too much time. This is Stornoway YMCA Select versus Muir Park on the 5th of July 1949. And both teams are there. And in black and white, you can't tell them apart, really. But you can see that one of them has got a darker second colour, but it's probably blue and orange against grey, black and white. But it's out in the glen, which a lot of you might remember, being used as a football pitch. And this is a more recent picture of a YMCA select who played Roo Amateurs in 1960. And Roo Amateurs, the goalie, was a man, Dougie McGilvery, who built the Karen Borv Hotel was built by him, so he was the goalkeeper for that team. If you look through them, you can see a few people you'll know. The goalkeeper, the notorious Charlie Crawford, who James up there modelled himself on, I think. Rolls over 10 times and kicks the ball upfield. I'm sure you can make out some of them. Did I see Noddy Eggs in here tonight? No, perhaps I didn't. He's the one beside Charlie, and Kenny Bobbins on this other side. Kenny Henderson, far left back beside Satchaf and Moda Porridge Morrison. You can also see Ken Kennedy, but again, you can go on all night. That is taken at Gotill. You can see the wall behind them. Now we're moving on to the days of the old Crocs. This is 1956, and you can see Angus Murray on the far left, an uncle of Andy Gray. So you can see where the blonde hair came from then. Dan McCaskill, Jimmy Shock Mackenzie, Alec Alliston, Kenny Booley McLennan, John Houghton McDonald Point, and the referee, of course, is D.K. McLean, known as Basher. Front row, Sandy Saul Murray, Kenneth Titton McDonald, Roddy M. McLeod, Kenny Safety Smith, and Kenny Crack McKeever. So quite a talented group on and off the field, I would say. And this is a more modern town, Old Crocs. Sadly, quite a lot of them are not with us, although I think it was in the 1990s. A 10 pence prize for anybody who recognised myself. You can see Jody Glack and what have you. People like Tom Mackenzie recently departed from us. Maud, Maud Mackenzie, Louis Shields, Moko Quinn, Alec Clinton, Angus Threach MacArthur. I could go on. Alec Murdo on the accordion. And this is a Boys Brigade team from 1956. You can see the reason why a scoutmaster is at the back is that he was the president of the YMCA Junior League. That's Kenneth Stewart of Geordie Stewart's. And you can see Murdoch MacLeod and Hugh Halbert in the coat. And quite a lot of these young boys formed the great Alths team of the early 60s. You can see Kenny Henderson, Bob Huns, Murdo John MacLeod. I think that's John Robertson. Yeah. And of course the same referee. Yeah, Billy Eckert is in the team as well with Satch on his right shoulder. Again, that's a bit later on. Anybody who can spot the goalie and tell me what his name is, again gets another 10 points. It is, well done. And Sandy said that in his whole life, the proudest moment in his life was getting the Lady World Cup final medal at the Glens. It wasn't meeting the Queen or anything like that. Again, you can see Duncan Roberts on the left with Murdoch MacLeod, and Ian Cumming of the second company. The first and second company made up the team. And you can see Donny Mackay in it and John Robertson. Now, this is the first United team from 1945. Now, United was formed in the YMCA. A group of boys got together and said, I think we should form a football team because the war was coming to an end. And this actually meant that they met again in January 1945 and formed the football team. And they're actually got 80 years this year. And the YMCA at that time, when they heard this team was being formed, decided to form the junior league. And hey presto, for the last 80 years, there's been a junior league which they've competed for the Kemney Cup and Lady World Cup from the early days. The man in the middle is Kenny Barley MacLeod, and you can see Duncan Robertson, second from left back row. I'm sure Kenny might make out more. I'm forgetting them off the top of my head.
The other guy at the back with the blonde hair, that's D.W. Booby Smith, is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That Kenny Barley.
Yeah, in the centre.
Aye, I've got a book of all the signed players in the junior league in 1945, and Kenny Barley was one of the last ones to pass away.
Yeah. Oh yes, yeah. Well spotted.
Bobby Monroe talked, right? I think.
Yeah. He played for the first senior team United had. We come to that shortly. Yeah, that's 1949. The reason why United didn't enter the senior league was that all of them thought they would be played in 46 when the league resumed after the war, but they were nearly all called up. And it's only when the national service ended that they formed the team again. And again, you can see Duncan Robertson on the left. There seems to be black smoke blowing over. I remember Louis Quinn used to say, "Oh, it's from the hospital. They're burning old legs." He was notorious for coming out with ridiculous statements. Again, that's United in the proper colours of amber and black. They've continued that, and occasionally they've gone to vertical stripes. Now this is United down at Hosta in North Uist, one of the first trips away by a local team. I'm trying to see if I can make out any of them. I have the names at home. I remember Torkel didn't get home for a week. I think he went to a wall. I think they were very, very kind down there. And that's a better thing. They had to take in a couple of players from school. You can see fourth from the left, Malcolm Macdonald, known as Sankey, and in the centre, front row, Malcolm Macdonald, Marco. And that's Callum Macaulay on the far right bottom from the west side. So again, that's another one of the. They were down 2 years running, so I'm not sure which year is which. Now this is United in 1957 with Tommy McBratney, who sometimes played in goals. There was also Billy Goat in the centre. Yeah, including Duncan Wayne. Baker in the front row. Move on to others. That's the same sort of group. The man third from the left is Roddy Raleigh MacLeod, who the only man. United won 5 leagues in a trot, and he was the only one that received 5 medals. And I'm pleased to say that I have these 5 medals because he was my late wife's uncle. So, and they're all hallmarked, quite substantial medals. The man in the centre beside the ball is Jimmy Duncan, who was United had a song about him. Don't ask me to sing it, but and Duncan Wayne far right back with Rodishan beside him. Quite tall players, United at that time. That's a clearer one, and again you can see Charlie Crawford in the centre, and in the front row there's Jody Vorty, MacArthur Raleigh, and Alistair Callanneely, and what's the name of the guy again? It's Ian Rolland Murray, yeah, beside him. Yeah. Oh yeah, Murray Johnson, the back row beside Duncan Wayne. Yeah, and Bear and yeah, and the man on the left is Sa. There was a famous case when Barts was playing for the Lewis Select in 1962. A photo was taken with Bart's captain with his foot on the ball. And later on, Bart showed it in the crit, which was the forerunner of the sea angling. And Sa said, yes, that's the only time you did foot on the ball all night. I think they lost 8-2 to the Highland League. Again, up at the Nicholson, the man with the tracksuit was Roy Small from Jordan Hill, who was giving my coaching session. So, again, more or less the same team as appeared there. That's moving into the 70s. Alec Clinton from Clinton Motors receiving a trophy from Motor Carpets Macdonald. And that's Bill Alliston and Alec Clinton with trophies. Again, moving on a wee bit, the manager is Finlay. What's his surname? Is he Morrison? MacLeod, Finlay MacLeod from Seaforth Road, or Seaview Terrace, right? And then you've got Alec Clinton, John Pongo Monroe, Kenny Mackenzie, Angus Stretch MacArthur, Michael Clinton, and what's his name again? McLean, Titch. And then Eddie Mackenzie, Ollie MacLeod, Alistair Herrick Morrison, Malcolm Wahid McKeever, and Arthur MacLeod. That's when United had a successful spell in the 75-76 era. Again, Barbers weren't doing very well in the mid-70s. Yeah, I think most of them are the same, although you can see Alec Alliston in the centre, Pat Aird second on the left, and one of the Macdonald brothers from Lurpost in goals. And bottom left is Hector Morrison, who went on to become minister in Barvis and what have you. And in the centre is, oh God. Yeah, Brian Monroe played with him in the fives. Again, you can see top left is Derek MacArthur, Derek Chico, and then young Roddy Raleigh MacLeod. And then another of Archie's sons in goals, and Alistair Herrick. I think that's Alec Don McKeever on the bottom right.
No, it's Joe McLean.
What's Joe? It's just the hair is getting him. And that's Donald Stretch Nicholson with Callum McLean, who also played for Moorwood Rovers. And that's moving on. That's when United won the fives. Brian Davis, Stretch Nicholson, Gordon Morrison. I can't make out who the
Robert Morrison from Macquarie.
Robert Morrison, then Angus Beattie, Morrison, Angus Morrison, Nomi MacDonald, and then he Red, who's now the Arts manager. They won the Andy Gray fives there, and talking about fives, you can see there's a football and a plaque there. In fives, which I think the RAF fives in the hangar were notoriously, well, I think there's 2-3 leagues. And yeah, very well competed for. But this trophy was won in, Charlie, can you tell us?
Antwerp.
Antwerp, yeah.
At the international five-a-side.
Yeah, yeah.
The Acres boys.
Yeah. And the photo can be inspected later. The tremendous players. Well done. Now we're moving on to the Rovers. The man with the hat at the back is Johnny Mop from Nicholson Road. And the man with the coat is John Mordecrack, the borough plumber. On the two players on top of one another, right, and that are the McKeever brothers, brothers of Roddy Goosey, in other words. Well, there's Johnny Goosey, father of Malcolm Wahid McKeever, and then his brother is down below. And it's Callum Gillis next to him, and a brother of John the Barber in the centre. And the wee man on the left is a right winger called Donald Chung Macmillan. And he was quite a character. Just looking to see, you can see Skello, Kenny Crack, and I'm beginning to forget who the others are, but I'm sure somebody will be able to point them out later. Now this is Rovers on a trip to play Inverness Thistle, and you can see Duncan Kennedy, Gam and Bob Millett in the suits on the back, and Charlie Crawford, who was playing for Inverness Thistle, is the goalkeeper beside Malcolm Macdonald. Yeah, in Inverness, yeah. Yeah, you can see Alexander, the Rovers in white, Alexander Mackay with Alec Murdo MacLeod next to him, and then Callum McLean, Malcolm Mokaquin. Then, yeah, and a young Al Cray sitting cross-legged. Can you do that now, Al? There's Ian Smith's smudge. Is that Owsley beside him?
There was Ozzy and
Yeah, Angus Martin, who died recently.
Ozzy and Martin.
Yeah. And of course, the three at the top, there's Kenny MacDonald, flanked by James MacDonald with a beard, and Norman Docus MacDonald on his right.
That was actually.
Yeah. Can you tell us about it? Yeah. Well, that's them wearing suits. Again, here's the Rovers. You can see Mokaquin and I'm trying to see, and Kenny MacDonald are in suits, and then Ian MacLeod from Kenny's brother. I think that's Ian, isn't it? Yeah. And then you've got, is that Donny MacDonald? And then Alistair, Clinton, Jody Dag Morrison, James Todd Morrison. And who's the next one?
Duncan Smith from Town.
Oh, yes. And the next one? Yeah. Oh, I didn't recognize him. I don't recognize him, he's not in a corner. And then you got at the bottom, young Willie Brochan MacDonald, Alexander Mackay, Titch McLean, Davy Cloudy, MacLeod the postman, and George Murray. And who's the guy next to him? Oh, yeah. I'll have to get some of you guys to run this. Well, this one's a bit, yeah. On either side of Jody Dag is Derek McLaughlin and Lewis Sketch MacLeod. And I think everybody else appears in the other photo, just about. Yeah, Murdo MacDonald and the anorak at the back.
I think we need Harris, yeah.
Yeah.
Aye, that's
So, something is wrong with this photo, Al. You're celebrating something.
Wasn't very few times.
Yeah. Now, the guy with the long hair, it's Malcolm Macdonald, and then somebody's then there's Scruffy. What was his proper name?
Ian MacLeod.
Ian MacLeod. You're right. Could I remember it? That's the Jockstein Cup, if I'm right. But one thing about the Rovers was that they were denied 2 leagues. The one in 1937, this is with the country clubs in 1939, they had 1 game to play and the war was declared. School had to win by 9 goals or 9-1 or something like that. And the game was never played, so the league was withheld. They should really have got it. And then in 1972, they needed to win against Bath. And they were leading 4-0. And they drew 4-4 with 2 late goals by Andy Gray and Alan Kerr. So, were you playing now? Well, he doesn't want to speak. But bad memories. And this is a younger team with Duncan Kennedy, the goalie. Malcolm Macdonald and Alec Putlet MacDonald in goals. Ian Smudge Smith, Davy Cutchy McLennan and Moda MacDonald. Stevie Martin, Batty Martin, Hughie Mackenzie, Callum Martin and Callum Gam Murray. The bottom one is just a photo of Thomas Smith Limited playing a team from Behead. Thomas Smith Behead. They used to win. The home team always won because the travelling team always used to imbibe too much. Now, this is, don't normally go on to important people, but this is John McCrae, who was John McCrae was the rector of the Nicholson Institute. But when he came to Lewis in 1903, he helped to set up the first competition, which was the Stornoway Cup. And then in 1908, he was playing for Raths. Then in 1908, he formed the first league. He was the secretary. And he was playing for Athletic, etc. And I'll explain more about the league later on, but he actually formed school again in 1912, and then later on in 1930, he formed the Stornoway Football League rather than, the Stornoway Football Association rather than the Stornoway Football League. So he played a really prominent role in getting football established in the Nicholson Institute and throughout the island. Now, this is the very first school team in 1912. There had been a team entered as Nicholson Institute in 1908, but they weren't an official school team. And you can see the names on the ball, Mr. Gibson in the centre, and Mr. McCrae is actually a player on the same row as Mr. Gibson. And trying to see if there are any important people. W. McKeever, Willish and McKeever really became well established with the Aths later on, but
E.J. MacLeod was sat up the doctor and
that's correct. Yes, yeah. Yeah, C.J. McKeever was also played as well.
was D.J. MacDonald not a dentist or a doctor?
I'm not sure about that. No. Need to check that one out, Kenny. C.J. McKeever was, as I said, a teacher, and his daughter was one of those that was killed during the fire with the Caledonian Hotel in 1966. She was an auntie of Colin McKeever. This is 1213. You can see quite clearly the William Davidson Mackenzie was a son of the provost and was a chairman of the Football Association. The L. MacLeod was the minister of St. Columba's, Lachlan MacLeod. And during the war, there was an old Crocs game, and he tried to jump the rope on the wooden post, tripped and broke his ankle. And all the Catholics around the town said, "Oh, it was anointed, it was anointed." So I don't think many have done that since. 1914 again, that's Zadok with the ball. His granddaughter was a Scottish rugby international as well, Beth. This is a 1920 photo, which I've only come into recently. I'm trying to identify some of them, but I'm afraid not. 1923, there were two Modo McSweens in this team, Modo Sweeney McSween and Modo Limitus McSween, and they were said to be two of the best players of that era. 1930, again you can see Hugh Graham on the left. The man holding the ball is Kenny Smith, who was the principal in the castle. And on the far right was Donald Beaver Crichton, who played as a former pupil later on. 1931, you can see the teacher supporting the team all the way. Again, that's the same team. 1932, the goalie is William Trail. John McRae there with the man with the glasses is Bill Chalmers, the art teacher. Again, every year. In 1937, the goalie is Alec Alliston, and the right back is Alec McCaskill, who was the caretaker of Martin's Church's son. 1938 was a famous year for the school. As you can see, all the trophies, they won the league, considering that all of the team listed there were schoolboys. No, there was none of them masters. Including, I'm just noticing, the one second from the right is M.M. MacLeod, known as Eno, who opened the Carlway football pitch in 1991. Yeah. And, sorry, the boy second on the left is D. MacDonald, Donald Macdonald, who opened the West Side pitch in what year, Kenny?
2007.
Yeah, okay.
And he was the last of that team to die away in 2017.
Yeah.
He was 90.
Yeah. This is just the school used to play teams from Inverness and Skye, and I'm sure you can recognise some of the boys there. And again, that's the same year. You can see Billy Urquhart at the front, Norman Gillis Wasp, Bart's at the back with Alistair Killanneely. Alistair Stuppy, the goalie, went on to play for Morton and the Highland League. Perot with his hair standing up. A man with very little opinions about anything. Yeah. Yeah, that's in front of the old gym door, I'm sure you'll remember. The man with the bald head at the back is Bill Young, who spearheaded a lot of the schoolgirls screaming, "Come on, the school." Girls then used to wear ankle socks. They don't even wear them at age 7. Yeah, the far right was Angus Nicholson, known as Shungle. That's in front of the main entrance to the Nicholson Institute with I'm not seeing Angus McCormack there. I think he's more a rugby man. 1957. That was the year the school was built, so that's why the steps are looking all clean. I've got them back to front. That's 1956. Again with Kenny Mackenzie Caney and Angus Nicholson sitting front. Lofty, Bill Young, and Bill Chalmers with Norman Gillis, who was a reserve. Back in these days, there would be 11, and they'd always have a 12th man called the travelling reserve, who only played if somebody didn't turn up. So it wasn't a very popular position. Again, another photo of them all. I don't know what happened to Brott's badge. He's the man without the badge. He must have been, couldn't have had a girlfriend to sew it on for him. And John McLeod, I think he'd be quite proud to see this one. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, John A. McLeod sitting in the back seat. And also there in the back left is our secretary's husband, D.K. McLeod. There's James MacDonald. Oh, here's the next one again. Yeah, and then Kenny McLeod from the west side, Colin Flower, Angus Titch MacArthur. Oh, yeah, and Duncan Skinner, the one on the far right, became director of Aberdeen Football Club. Yeah. And then George Prince, Donny Stephen MacDonald, Derek McLaughlin, Donald Raspberry MacDonald, Norman Squiggles Mackenzie, and what's it, Maradona? No, sorry, John A. McLeod. It was a very good team that I think they would have done better in another era, perhaps. And from 1976, the school pulled out and they play against other schools now. So that's Angus. Sorry, that's McPhee. What's his first name again? Alan McPhee. Yeah, getting a trophy for the Nicholson Institute. Now, this is the very first photo of a football team. It's 1904 Stornoway Football Club, because the Alths were called Stornoway when they were formed in 1891 in the Star Inn. And it was 1908, the first league that they became known as Stornoway Athletic. They actually were, along with Stornoway Shinty Club, they came under the umbrella of a club called Stornoway Athletic Club, who ran Highland Games, but they went defunct at the time of the Boer War because all these games were stopped. And so, but that's carried on the Football League sports, and then the league itself carried them on. The man with the moustache in the centre at the back is the grandfather of Francis Mackay, a well-known barmaid in the town. We've got Louis Bain and Jimmy Willie McGilvery sitting in the centre with the ball, and the next boy, Tim, was, what do you call him? He became the district clerk, Donald Mackay. And the man in the suit is George Shorison Bach, George MacLeod, and one Dean's father. Now, this is 1908. Alths had moved to the black and white. The original colours were white with red facings. And yeah, there's a few McKeevers in there. The man on the player, the last player on the right back row was John Carson, who was killed at the Battle of Jutland in 1916 when HMS Defence blew up. And his grandson, Satch Afran, played for Alths as a fullback as well. So. And you can see John McCrae in the centre. And the man with the moustache and the I think it looks like something like a towel. There's Tommy Nicholson, who, if you go for your papers, you're going to Tommy Nicholson's. That's the man. Again, John, I think that's a photo you sent me this afternoon. John's father is middle row, not wearing the hat, on the left. Alan McDermott, what's his first name? Jameson, the goalie, and Malcolm Macdonald, a brother of Dolly Doctor. Yeah, Jimmy Robertson, and John Thor's the centre forward. Kenny Groby McLean and Willie McDermott on the bottom. Yeah. Again, this looks like us out in the country. When they started playing friendlies against rural teams around 1931. This is the 1931 team. Now, if you see the two cups in front of you, the Charity Cup, that's the Charity Cup, and the D'Oyly Card Cup, 1923. Now, in 1998, this was valued at £1,000. It's mine. No, I'm holding it in case there's a football museum ever comes about. And as for the last holders of the Charity Cup, I got it from the league secretary way back, Alistair Macdonald. And Charlie Crawford paid for the D'Oyly Card Cup being improved. It was missing a handle, and what having was bashed. So I think he spent about £400 on it in Murness Trophy Centre. So it's good to have them. This is Aths 1947, just after the war, and you can see the socks have got holes in them because there was clothing coupons required back then, and I think they were able to get tops, but they all seem to be wearing their PT gear, PT shirts from the war, all different colours. And 1948, they're all dressed in new shirts with badges, etc. The man on the right far side is Norman MacLeod, well known as Mick, who had the sports shop, and his daughter's in our committee. William Allison next to him, and then Bill Cameron, Brian Chippy Godfrey, and then Norman Nicholson, and then you've got I'm trying to remember what their names are. The two, I've got the names at home. You've got Morrison the banker, then Murdo Potts, MacDonald, Ian McLennan, who was a councillor later on, Alec John Mackenzie, and Kenny Safety Smith. And right at the back, you've got Bill McLean, Jimmy Shock Mackenzie, Tommy McBratney, Derlo Macaulay, and can't remember his name, but he was Ian McMillan, the dentist's brother. Yeah, I just can't remember the first name. Angus, you're right. Well done. If I need a prompt, I need to. This is the 1953 winning team. You can see, there's the referee, then Colin the Twin, Mackenzie, DM Safety, Smith, Billy Brochan, MacDonald, who's the only one left, Bill McLean, Norman McCole, as he was called, Jimmy Shock, who composed several Aths songs, and then the front, I can't remember his name, is Mackenzie, I can't remember his first name, and Jackie Dyer, Kenny Safety, and Johnny Story are on the right. I'm not sure about the one that's in the inside right position. Now this is, you can see Norman Popeye Mackay, Bill Anderson, who ran the Cali, Callum, what's his name? Bear McLean. Not sure the next one. Then Archie's father, Bracky, and Peter O'Brien. Then John Ritchie, John Corbett, John the Castle Macdonald, not sure about the next one, and then DM Safety Smith. And the number 6 shirt worn by Bobby, I think Archie still got it. Did he put it on upside down? Because I thought he played number 9 mostly. Yeah, that's Lady World Cup winners of 1958. Cammy Kerr and Billy Urquhart are the 2 guys officiating with. Again, I could name some of them, but not all of them. Front row's John Doe, Noriegs, Kenny Henderson, McRae, and Bobbins. Crazy, what was I talking about? Ian Ishan is beside Norman Graham and Mackenzie and Afrin after that. 1962, just before they were presented with the Stornoway Cup, Satch Afrin, Jimmy Anderson, Johnny Mush, Mackay, Billy Gutt, Rob Drummond, Johnny Mackenzie, and in front, Tom Mackenzie, John Robertson, Norrie Eggs, Kenny Bobbins, and Dean Crawford. Again, this is taken in the YM. Obviously, didn't manage to get it on the thing there. First photo we have with Cammy Kerr and Kenny Doogie McRae, who was a spendthrift treasurer. You know, he couldn't wait to throw the money away. And Norman Popeye was the manager, with Dean Crawford also in the suit. On the far left, front row, is Donald M. MacLeod, John's brother, who played all positions for us, I think, apart from goalie. This is the 1968 one. I think Norman Mackenzie, Tom, has fallen asleep. And Malcolm Quinn on the far left front, a rare season from him away from the Rovers. It was a 2-league season that, which didn't go down very well. That's an Aths Lady World Cup winners team from 1991. Some of them went on to play for the team, like Kenny Wellies from the back, Kenny Wellies McCaskill and Eric Strada McLeod, Hugh McLean, and then bottom Horny Smith, and in the centre Butch and Arnie Montgomery on the far right. 1988, won the league. I think I'm in the back row somewhere. We got the names of everybody, including the boys there, so yeah. I'm just looking at the time. We got Magnus Johnson at the back left, who has been a tremendous worker on and off the pitch, playing for us and keeping the pitch in great condition. And Ali Suggan McLean, who's followed on to Kenny Doogie's tradition of keeping a tight rein on the purses. It's again Magnus, Gordon Morrison, Malcolm McLennan, Keith Bray, who's in the front row here, back row there, Scott McKeever, Innes Campbell's now the manager, and Peter P.D. MacDonald, who sadly passed away in New Zealand last year. In the front, we've got Donald Pluck and Murray, another Butch, Don Butch Morrison, Callum Chansey McLeod, Mark Zara, Colin McCritchie, who's still playing for us. This is 1999, so he's still playing 26 years later. And Derek Butchman. What's that?
It's later than 99.
Oh, probably 2000 or 2001, yeah. David McLeod and Modo Johnson. That's not a very good one, but it's us winning the league down in Harris. And winning a cup. Again, you can... Nicholas Davis with a cup at Gotil. And that's Stuart Bubble Macdonald after netting in a cup final. Now this is probably about 2005 or 6. With Robert Jones, etc. Again, another Specialist Welding Services have been a long-term sponsor of the league, and that's why it's there. That's 2012. And this is a special occasion when in the Kemney Cup final, Alts had 2 teams entering the competition, and both of them got to the final. And we've got the Alts flag in front of them. Again, that's a very wet Gotil Park. It affected my hair terribly. now this is a photo of Athletic and Lochs at Gotil Park in 2003, when the Highland Amateur Cup final was held at Gotil. Probably the biggest club game on the island. And the weather looks okay there, but after 5 minutes, it drowned everybody, and the crowd went from, I think it's from 700 there, probably would have been more otherwise. And I think everybody tried to get into the stand. Now, this is April 40, and there's a team here in France, the Ross Battery in France, including, Slim Jim, etc. Yeah. Yeah, Skello, and your father is there, yeah, Lance Sergeant, Lance Sergeant McCrae, yeah, Sergeant McCrae is Slim Jim, and sorry, just moving on. They actually, there was one of them from the mainland playing for the rest were all Lewis boys playing for the Royal Artillery in France. They were hoping to take on the Germans, but that was a couple of months later. They had to leave the Maginot Line and move back. But the war is another subject. This is a team from Gairloch coming over to play Arts in 1949. We sent them homewards to think again. Now, this is a Rovers forward line from 1939. You've got A.J. McCaskill, Alec John McCaskill, Doya Mavison, who saved many people in Burton's, D.D. Morrison, who was a famous centre forward on the shop, Adam MacLeod, the famous accountant and golfer, and the redoubtable Louis Quinn MacLeod, who drove the fastest ash cart in the West. As you can see, the grass needed a little bit of trimming, but these are the Nicholson Roadhouses behind them. Again, sorry, I got a United one out of sequence, but you can see second right at the bottom is Mortimer Root MacLeod, and fourth from the left back row is Malcolm Bubby Mackenzie of Gotil Farm. This is the full Rovers team, and you can see that they look at quite a happy bunch. The guy on the right-hand side, I wish I had a pointer, is the brother of the other that's Roddy Jack McCaskill, who was said to have the hardest penalty kick in the island at the time. Yeah. Another United team. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to have shown photos of everything, but just to show you how many clubs there were in Stornoway way back. There was the Star in 1888, Boys Brigade, which was really a naval brigade or a Sea Cadets in 1888. There was a North Stornoway and a South Stornoway game in 1896. The Fish Trade played a few games. Max and non-Max. the Royal Naval instructors who actually played in cups, the country pupils in 1908. There was a Thistle in 1909 and 1923, Stornoway lads in 1912, McAlpines in 1919. That's concrete bobs, they were called, because they built the likes of the Gary Bridge and what have you, and they were building the Leversham houses, etc. And then they went away after that. There was Federation in 1919. That was a federation of soldiers, sailors, and airmen. And they changed their name to United Services in the following year. And they were based in the old Pipe Band Hall, which, well, there is a Pipe Band Hall there, but it was the old Pipe Band Hall. There was also Lawad. They had a team, Lewis and Harris Welfare and Development Company. That was Leversham's mob, and they were in the league for a couple of years. I haven't been able to find a photo of them. The Red Triangle Club played in 1923. I didn't manage to get a photo of them either. Former pupils in 1929, and there was a couple of teams called Roverson United who were not associated with the eventual Roverson United, who played in the late 20s. There was Grays in 1931 who played in the league. They were a construction firm. I don't know where. And Sandvik Victoria, who played in 1933 and then again in 1949. I know they played in Hibstrips after the war. And the Unionists, a rather strange team, 1932 and 33. And they won the league in 1933. And their goalkeeper was the Unionist candidate, or Tory candidate, Ian Moffat Pender, who was a Gaelic-speaking man. And everybody was playing for him because I think he was quite generous after post-match celebrations. And yes, they did very well to win that. But when they decided, when T.B. Wilson Ramsay was the MP, became a Liberal Unionist, he withdrew and the club folded. So that's the story of it all. Just to mention that in the 1890s, the first trip away was in 1886. And this was a team formed by Stornoway, a predecessor to the Arths, really, because the Angus Bain had Natrial, was in charge of one of the teams, and the other one was a man, I can't remember, Robert Burns, not the poet, but a relation to Kenneth Burns, who normally appears here. And they did the trial and they went away and they lost 2-1 to Skye in Sconser. There was a lot of trouble back then in procuring football fields. And Lady Malson wasn't very kind. And it was only about 1891 that she started to allow it. And that's when Arths formed. Now, in 1891, the first Arths match officially was again in Skye, and they travelled over, lost 5-0, and the highlight was that the Stornoway policeman who travelled with them was arrested by the Skye policeman. The full story might be told again. But the first home game with a mainland opponent was Ullapool came over in 1901, and then Barvis had a team in 1903. And a lot of Royal Navy ships came in, and just to show you the size of the ships coming in, Stornoway played the home fleet in 1904, and that included 7 battleships. So they had there's some crews of over 1,000 on them, and there's cruisers as well. So they did reasonably well. Just as our treasurer is a butcher, I think I'll finish off with a story that the home fleet, Noonie the butcher, Angus Mackenzie, got the contract for the meat and milk for the home fleet when they were in. And he had to take stuff in from the mainland and what have you. And so he put up a poster in the window saying, "Purveyor of meat to H.M. the King." And 2 doors away was D.M. MacLean from Dundougal's Bray, and he had a poster put up, "God save the King." So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to call a halt, but is there any questions or queries people may have?
What about the builders?
Oh, I've been trying to get that photo up. Oh, there we are. There's the builders. The two men on the left are Johnny Story from Sandwick and Gordon Davidson, ex-As players. The man in the cheap suit is James McLennan and Jimmy Bull. That's why builders were called the builders, because Stornoway builders were there. And yeah, you can see Peter O'Brien in the front row. I'm trying to think of who else. The goalie, is it Ian Norrie, Macdonald, yeah? He played for that later on. And John, is that second from the left, is that Ian Lobo?
No, it's cousin, I think. John Moore the Painter, is it?
Yeah, it's John Murdo MacDonald, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. And the guy beside, the back, beside Jimmy Buller, is that Alec MacLeod, the Veach from Point? Who's it, John?
Cookie, I think.
Yeah. I didn't play against them, so.
Nor did I.
I had been 6 words. Well,
Malcolm, where were the games get played?
what's that?
Where were the games played mostly for the Stornoway teams?
Oh,
Part of Oldville.
well, just go till, really.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, in actual fact, Point and school and RAF played at Gotill, as well as Rovers, Aths, United, you know. So keeping the pitch. Well, can I say that 1934 was the first year Gotill Park opened? Before that was Old Gotill. It was further down to where Tarransay, where Ian Morrison, the United chairman, lives, and Sandy Matheson used to live, and the All-Weather. That's where it was. But it was used during the First World War for digging for victory, and it ruined the drainage, and they knew they'd move eventually. And the Willow Glen Park was used in 1919 because the pitches were really unplayable, and it wasn't very good either. And that's another school team in 1926. That's Gotill, 1955. You can see the effect on the goalmouths, Gordon. But you can see there's quite a decent crowd there. Again, another school team with, Norman C. Macdonald in the bottom left. And the man up above him, fourth from the left, in the centre row is Kenny Stay Morrison. He designed the first pavilion at Gotill. He was from North Street. And that's a YM team in the old YM itself. I can see I can see Jimmy Snedden far right, and I'm afraid I'm running out of time here. This is another one Charlie will remember. Aberdeen versus the Acres.
Some stars.
Yeah, and you can see Jim Layton in goals. The Lewis boys in the lighter strips: Norrie Tumsh, MacDonald, Colin McRae, Ali Suggan, McLean, G.G. Campbell, Ian MacLeod, Ian Fish, Dooney MacLeod, and in the bottom, Norman Fatta MacLeod, Mulder Johnson, Kenny Spoonian McLean, Magnus Johnson, and Donald McPhail. I've got that one better. But there's quite a few well-known faces from the Aberdonian team there. What is the final score, Charlie?
Remember.
Oh, are you as bad as me?
It was a 5-1 or something.
Close run. It's a 5-1.
6-1 or something. I think it wasn't going 8
And this is one of the Rovers. They pinched old strips from Shawbust, if I remember right. Is that right, Ale? Yeah, you got Ian Geordie and Callum Martin, Alec Modo, Gam, Alexander, Johnny MacDonald, Callum Gobbs and Ali Finlay Morrison. I'm trying to work out the others. I only got this one recently. Is that Norman McCaskill, the goalie?
It is.
But, yeah. I knew he played for Rovers. Yeah. Kenny MacDonald in the centre, I think, yeah.
Yeah, Kenny and Donny MacDonald.
Yeah. Now, this is the Football Association about 1950, when D.D. Morrison, Hilton, A.J. MacDonald, A.J. McLean from Aird. Trying to work out who they all are. Yeah, Dools at the back with Angus Nicholson. Alec Neal in the centre.
Dr. McLeod on the left.
Yeah, Torkel McLeod, yeah. John Motor Demps Martin on the left, standing. The fourth from the left is Kenny MacDonald, who was printed in the Gazette. Oh, and four along from him, I think it's Alfred Kelly from back, if I remember right. And another United one. Somebody didn't like the centre forward. That one's obviously taken with a flash. And the tall guy, of course, is Roddy Goosey. McKeever, my friends. So I'm afraid that's it, folks, because it's 8:25. We have to be out for 8:30. So hope you enjoyed that.